Hi, Nicole. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. Really looking forward to our conversation. We have a lot in common as far as kind of how we got started in the health and wellness space. So I think we're going to have a great conversation that will be valuable to our listeners. What I would love to do to start is, can you share with them a little bit about what you're currently doing with your IHP certification? And then we'll talk about how you kind of got started and what you were doing before that.
Yeah, absolutely. So since I've become an integrative health practitioner, I've been really focusing on helping my clients understand the underlying factors with their weight loss resistance. So focusing on gut health, focusing on their female hormones, focusing on the nervous system, digestion, and detoxification. And so these clients usually have a well-rounded program focusing on nutrition, exercise sometimes, and understanding their underlying root causes, which sometimes involves doing functional lab work.
Yes. Yeah. And how did you kind of get started with, IHP? What were you doing before that? If you want to share.
Before that, I was a personal trainer. And of course, it's very cliche, but I was an athlete that led me to be a personal trainer. And my clients were getting good results. They were losing weight, they were getting stronger, more energized. But then it always seemed to plateau. So then I started to listen to Dr. Stephen Cabral's podcast, and it really intrigued me and how I can fill in those missing gaps, not only with my clients, but with myself. Because I always had IBS symptoms growing up, and I just thought it was normal. I just thought, this is life. I just ate something that wasn't good for me or whatever. But then I started to learn there was like more pieces to the puzzle. And there's just so much fake noise in the personal training space. So I wanted to eventually help myself more, but also get better results for my clients, which led me down the road to become an IHP.
Yes. Yeah. I've talked before on these episodes how I was personal training, and, that's really how Dr. Cabral started in the health and wellness space. He was a personal trainer, and then he opened a studio, and there's a lot that you can do to help people as a personal trainer, knowing, foundations of nutrition and knowing what to do as far as like programming is concerned with exercise. But knowing what we know as IHPs, it's like, oh my gosh, so much more in depth. I think back to all the time clients that I had that may have been like, plateau cases that I couldn't solve, or, they just always had skin breakouts and issues. And I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I knew what I know now, I could have helped them in such a deeper way. I'm obviously grateful to have the knowledge that I have now, but it's so amazing when like I look back and think, my gosh, I know exactly what was wrong with them. Like I probably wouldn't even have to run a lab test, right? They needed a detox. They, were missing foundational nutrients. It is like so clear. And I think like being and understanding the personal training aspect of things and how to change the body aesthetically with personal, with actually training regimens, plus being able to apply the IHP, it's like the best of both worlds.
I would agree 100%. And the way I look at it is training is good. Is it going to be my whole life? Do I want my clients to just focus on that? No, because when you learn the other stuff, then your efforts with training becomes easier. You don't have to go to the gym as much, and you can get even better results. And so that's what's really kept me going over the years. I'm not burnt out trying to go to the gym 5-6 days a week. Even when I'm tired, even when I have no time for it, it's like, okay, cool. I'm still training my body to be resistant and resilient, but also focusing on these other aspects that are going to get me much further.
Yes. Yeah. A bigger bang for your buck, so to speak. Yeah. The movement and the exercise, it's such an important piece, but sometimes women are literally killing themselves trying to like just maintain their body composition, right, in the gym, never mind even trying to lose weight, but just to maintain and not gain weight. But it's actually working against them, which I think is going to kind of be a good little segue into the topic that I want to get into, which is, all the ways that you might see women specifically. We'll talk about women specifically, that since that's mostly who you're working with, like what are the biggest things that are holding them back, right? So you meet with them and they're like, listen, I've been doing, this kind of exercise. I've been eating, this kind of way. I'm doing all the things and I can't still lose weight. What are some of the things, we'll start with maybe the biggest one that you might recognize that they're doing that are, that's a huge disservice that they might not know, right? They're being educated by, who knows where, right? Because there's so much information out there, then they think they're doing the right thing. What do you see as something that holds them back?
The first thing that comes to my mind is they think that they're eating healthy. And it may be that individually they're eating healthy foods, but those foods are not working for them. Take a salad, for example. If someone has major stomach issues, they're not producing enough stomach acid, they're not detoxing properly, and then they're eating a raw salad every day, well, that's going to drain them of their energy. And then they might be putting a salad dressing on there that has canola oil, vegetable oil, super inflammatory for them. So they may think they're eating healthy, but it's really holding them back from feeling better and doing the things that they need to do to feel even better than that.
Yes.
And I feel like there's also so much greenwashing going on, which is a term I love teaching my clients about how a brand will make a product look healthy. Eat this, get fit. Protein bars, for example, most of the time filled with fake sugar, fake flavors, weird sourced protein. Like those things are leaving people more drained and further behind, but they think that initially, well, if it's in the store, it's marketed as healthy, it has protein, it's got to be what I need.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like social media has like really done a number to like the ability to greenwash and do so much of that, damage, for lack of a better word, because we're just so easily influenced, right? And all it takes is like a woman who looks like you might want to look, whether it's her genetic, makeup or not, and she's advertising for this brand of protein bar, and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's working for her, clearly, right? She might not even be eating them, is the truth. And she might just be doing influencer ads for them. So I think that, yes, the marketing has gotten so out of hand, so influential, and yeah, so greenwashed, that it's really leaving people confused and getting wrong information that's working against them.
100%. And that also goes into like beauty products, right? There's a lot of beauty products that are marketed as being healthy too. And big two factors with someone's ability to speed up their metabolism, get healthier, is the amount of toxins going in and the amount of toxins going out. And some factors that affect that, of course, are mineral status, but also the things we're putting on our skin, not just the things that we're putting in our stomach. And so for women specifically, we tend to use a lot of those products. So we usually think it's just food and exercise, but there are other factors.
Absolutely. Yes. And other environmental toxins, right? Like we're just exposed to so much, and there's a lot of things that we can't necessarily control, right? Like if you walk outside, what's in the air. And that's why we're all such big believers of controlling what we can and educating not only ourselves, but our clients on the factors that, these are things that you can control. This is something that you could change, that you could mitigate, and being able to kind of empower them to change the things that they can to lessen their toxic load, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's no point in having all of this information and stressing about it. It's like, what do you have space to control right now? And go from there. Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of those videos online about, someone's eating an apple and then their brain goes to that reel they saw about how apples have so much, are sprayed so much. And it's like, and then they're eating eggs and it's like, these eggs are filled with viruses or whatever it is. And it's like, we cannot allow all of the noise to stress us out, because I find that stress is absolutely always a factor with the nutrient deficiencies, with the toxicity loads, etc. Stress is never out of the equation.
Right. Yeah, because stress creates the nutritional deficiencies. It also makes it much harder for, mineral status to resolve. It makes it harder for basically the adrenals to work properly. And then that affects hormones. It's just, it's a cascade. This was going to be a question that I asked you a little later on, but I'm going to ask it now since we're on the topic. What amount of your clientele do you see that do you ever recommend that some women actually pull back on the amount of exercise that they're doing? Do you find that they're sometimes doing too much for the amount of stress in their lifestyle, and then almost from like a metabolic standpoint, it's working against them?
Yeah. Yeah. If someone comes to me and they're already exercising more than 3 times a week and they have signs of burnout, like we're going to pull back on that exercise, or at least try something a little bit more gentle. If they still have a menstrual cycle, then we're going to try to coordinate their workouts based on their menstrual cycle as well. Right. We're not going to just go full tilt in the gym. And that's where I also, coming from a personal training background, have a hard time giving people very strict programming as females, because it's like we can, but then that also can become a stressor because you are changing. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs too. So like their day-to-day is changing. Their hormones are changing. What they have to do is changing. Their energy is changing. So it's like, we can't be stuck in very rigid programming. We have to have room to change and listen to our body and what it needs that day.
Yes. Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people do better with less exercise. I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did too. And it was, usually when my stress was the highest, I had to pull back on the exercise. And if you think about it, like if you're already running, quote unquote, running from the lion, during the day, and then you go to the gym, well, now you're just like running from the whole herd. And even though is what I hear a lot of people say is like, it's my stress reliever. It's the thing that I do to like manage my stress. And I think it's so important to get women to tap into and discern, like, is it just a distraction? Is it an outlet that feels like you're doing something productive, right? And you're needing yourself to constantly be achieving and producing in order to be, even when you're trying to cope, right? Does rest feel hard for you? So you're going to exercise as a means to control stress, right? I always ask women like, okay, so how does it relieve your stress? Tell me how it feels like it helps you relieve your stress. And I find that for a lot of people, they're just using it as a distraction and a way to still achieve. And this might be something that you see with your entrepreneurs, still achieve, but in the name of, quote unquote, good health. And they think that it can work against them.
Oh, 100%. I love the way that you frame that as well, because we're always looking to do something to get something, when sometimes it's like doing nothing gets us further. But I will say that sometimes, like, because I work at a desk a lot and I'm on calls a lot, that I still need that movement aspect. It just might not be exercise in a gym or in a structured setting. It might be going for a walk, being silly and dancing and shaking and moving my body, just so that I feel like I have that energy flow through my body and I don't feel stagnant and tight and rigid.
Yes, no, completely. I think, and when I say like go to the gym and like run from the whole herd, I'm thinking like resistance workouts and, women that are doing, high intensity training, and like they're just doing too much, too long, right? The duration's too long. I mean, I've had clients take their workouts from like an hour to just 20 minutes. I'm like, resistance train for 20 minutes and that's it. And all of a sudden, like, they start losing weight like crazy. Sometimes our bodies get stressed with the amount of load that we're putting on it. Sometimes it's the amount of time that we're doing it for. Walking is, I think so many people, not in our little bubble, but so many people underestimate walking and the health tool that it is in its own right, from movement to the way that it calms the nervous system, but you're actually still, moving your body, you're draining your lymphatic system. There's so many benefits in this kind of like well-rounded way. And if you think about it, right, it's like what we were meant to do. We have feet, we're meant to walk. And so many people are taking less steps than they should. But I think they shoot over the walking and they're like, I need to go to the gym. I need to be doing more. It has to feel hard in order for me to get some sort of benefit from it. And sometimes that is a shift in mindset that I have to work on with clients.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I look at it in the way as like, it's our right to be healthy. It is our right to have a slow paced life, to find purpose, passion, meaning in everything, not to like constantly be striving for more. We're all going to have that ambition to want more and experience more. But sometimes we have to like realize that going full tilt and that all or nothing mindset is actually what's holding us back. especially in our health.
Yes.
Because I mean, for me, like I try to aim for 10,000 steps a day. It's a pretty normal thing to aim for. And I find it's easy once you integrate that into your life, like take the stairs, park further away, give yourself more time, go for a short, gentle walk after every meal. Then all of a sudden it becomes easy. And it supports so much more than losing weight. Like you genuinely just have like more focus, more energy. You're in a better mood, less anxiety. And one of the things that no one ever talks about is, but like I go for walks and I'll look in the distance because a lot of people are like on their phone, right? We're looking like this at a screen. And so that can cause migraines. It can cause eye vision problems and anxiety in itself. So I'm like looking in the distance, trying to see new things in the woods, watching the birds, doing all that kind of stuff. And for me, I just feel like it's a reset.
Yeah. It's a way to like diversify basically what your nervous system is exposed to, right? Because so much of, what happens in a general workday for people is they are watching, reading, doing something up close. And unless you have a job where you're working outside or something like that, it is typically repetitive. It's the same thing every day. And diversifying what your nervous system, how your nervous system is wired throughout the day can be a way to just build in that flexibility, build in that resilience, and signal that like it's not in danger, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think women too, when hormones start to change is usually when they see the most weight loss resistance. And I think that's when stress is the most impactful, right? I think that's when stress affects our hormones the most. And I feel like it's such a critical time to educate women on the fact that like, okay, you don't have to all of a sudden start eating less and exercising more to get what you're looking for. And also, to go back to your, like the fake health foods, right? And eating bars that have essentially no nutrients in them, but they're just focusing on, maybe the protein macro in it. And they want to hit a certain amount of protein, or they're focusing on the fact that it has no sugar, and educating them about what other ingredients in those foods could be detrimentally hurting their gut health and even overall metabolically.
Yeah, absolutely. Just having the education of knowing like what to do, because there's so much noise out there and you can have information overload from anything. Like that's why I've diversified my own portfolio when it comes to like health and coaching. Like I did like I said, did the personal training. I did the bikini competitions, and every time I can look back and think, oh, I wish I didn't do this, or I wish I did this differently. But it was always a learning curve and a learning experience. And every time I would hire a coach, I would also level up my life, learn more, have different perceptions and experiences. I mean, the main reason that I actually finally chose IHP is one of my coaches, Brie LeBlanc, which is Brie Doucette now. She raved about IHP all the time and how amazing the course is, how amazing the community is, how amazing Dr. Stephen Cabral is. And when I did that, I feel like I leveled up my life so much that my clients leveled up their results and their progress. Because when you can feel confident and trust what you're doing, then the results are going to come. Things are going to start also making more sense. Like it makes sense to me not to eat the protein bars anymore. It makes sense for me not to starve myself to get results anymore. It makes sense to learn to listen to my body and feel like what I'm doing is really working.
Yes. And there's no better way to confidently express a belief and a suggestion to a client than having lived the experience yourself, and being able to say like, listen, I was there. I know what it's like to have like thought that maybe if I just ate a protein bar with like 150 grams of 150 calories and 18 grams of protein for lunch, that would get me what I wanted, as far as like an aesthetic result or whatnot. But if it does in the short term, it's certainly not going to lead to long-term health. And it may be a short-term strategy, but never a long-term solution. And being able to, we've talked time and time again on this show about how, creating that connection with a client through your lived experience, through your own ups and downs, and being able to say, rather than coming from a place of like lecture, like, oh my gosh, don't do that. I mean, I would never, right? You're able to say, listen, I've been there. I get it. It's hard to conceptualize this, but trust me, if you eat a little bit more, your body will feel safer to shed the weight, right? You're able to just communicate and energetically connect to clients on a much different level when you've gone through it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to one of the points that you said about how like just eat a little bit more and then you're going to feel better, you're going to support your metabolism. I find a lot of people, and this was myself, is that they like genuinely didn't know how to eat more. Because they were like, if they ate more, then they would feel gross or they feel like they gained weight. But in reality, it was because they were inflamed and their digestive system was not strong enough. So it's like, that's where people like you and I and other IHPs are coming in. And it's like, let's look at the root cause, what's really going on here and causing you to feel like as soon as you ate that extra serving, gain 5 pounds. We didn't gain 5 pounds of fat overnight. Like that's not possible. So like, let's look at what is driving that inflammation in your body and let's fix it.
Yes. Yeah. I can remember like my mom growing up, like, we would say like, are you going to eat dinner? She'd like make dinner and then clean the kitchen, and she wouldn't actually sit down to eat. And, she would always say like, oh, if I eat too much, I just feel gross. Like even now, like I'm still trying to fix her digestion, right? It's one of those things where if you don't know what we know and you're like even the slightest bit unaware or unconnected from your body, you just assume like, this is where I should stop. I just don't feel well if I continue, right? And so I'm just going to eat less to feel better. And being able to show a client quantitatively on a lab test, or again, explaining it in the way that we've been taught through IHP, it can give them a point of reference to be like, okay, yes, this isn't normal. They might have friends that feel the same exact way and they just think they're doing what they're supposed to, but it's just the missing piece is the education around it. And that's where the benefit of like having a coach like yourself comes into play, that's able to guide them and say, okay, I get we're not going to force feed you and still have you feel this way, but there's a reason why you can't eat more and not feel like you're 10 pounds heavier at the end of the meal.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a big thing for everyone, and they think it's the food, right? It's like, oh, I ate this pasta and I'm heavier, or I ate sugar and I'm heavier. And it's like, everything just always gets blamed on carbs. It's so sad because I'm like, we need carbs to live. You don't necessarily need to eat this regular pasta, but you shouldn't feel that way after you eat. And when you stop feeling that way after you eat, you really get your life back because you can focus on a new chapter. You don't have to think about always, when am I going to eat? Are my clothes going to fit? Am I going to have energy after dinner? And instead, it's like, you just focus on life itself.
The things that matter.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, yeah, going for a walk, right? Because, even moving your body feels harder if the meal that you just ate made you feel inflamed and heavy. And yes. And I think too, depending on what kind of a circle, some of your clients are in, if you have just a few people that feel the same way, they think it's just normal, right? I love the saying, just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. And there's always a root cause for it. And yes, we're not like meant to constantly focus on shrinking and being better and doing more things. And if it's getting easier, like we're lazy, or if it's getting easier, we must not be doing it right. And oh my God, there's got to be a fallout here because things feel at ease. And that's where obviously like the mindset shift has to come into play for some women. But I feel like culturally speaking, we've kind of been pushed into that way of thinking, and it can be such a disservice, coupled with like just poor, nutrition education overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sad if someone has to live their whole life with those concerns and never actually just focusing on joy, leveling up in their life, family, but instead it's like food, scale.
Yes.
Like I just want to like throw everyone's scale out and let them focus on the things that bring them happiness.
Yes. Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that also people look at things like they look for evidence. So it's like people who are struggling with their health are constantly looking at evidence that this is just the way it is. This is the way it's going to be, rather than looking for evidence of change. And so if someone can't find evidence that things can change or will be better, that's when they need an IHP in their life. to show them this is what is going on and this is what you could be experiencing if we just made these simple changes, so that you start seeing the evidence of progress rather than the familiarity of distress and being stuck.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Then that's where IHPs offer hope. And again, going back to sharing your story, sharing the fact that you've once been, okay, I've been there, I've felt that, like, I am the hope for you until you can see the hope yourself. I'm giving you the evidence that it exists, it can exist. And it's something that every woman deserves. It's like our birthright to feel good and comfortable in our body. And I think it's such a careful balance of being, seeking what you want and being the best version of yourself, right? While also understanding that you're just perfectly yourself as you are. And I think for so many women, when they let go of that like tight grip to change and being smaller, and they're able to like allow, right? They're able to then like allow that change into their life, because they're not so hell-bent on how much they've been broken and why they don't deserve it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that's what I want for everyone who works with me and everyone who works with any IHP, is just like moving on to the next chapter of their life and letting go of these things that weren't making them feel their best.
Yes. Yes. I say all the time, the benefit of having a coach is you just can kind of give it up, right? It's like, okay, I'm giving this responsibility to you. I'm no longer micromanaging and trying to figure it all out on my own. And we can alleviate that stress. And I think that that's a huge part of the puzzle. I recently was saying to a client, like, you could tell that she like knew enough. I was reviewing a hair tissue test with her. You could tell she knew enough about like wellness, because she was like almost trying to interpret the test herself. She's like, I mean, I can see that my magnesium's low, but I'm taking magnesium all of the time. Actually, I think it was her magnesium is high. She's like, I'm taking magnesium all the time, and maybe I should stop. And I was like, hang on, just like pause for 1 second. I haven't even started explaining the test, and you're already trying to figure out what you think it means and what you should do to fix it. I'm like, this is why you did this. I'm going to give you some structure and some things to kind of think about without you having to take the stress on of interpreting it all on your own. But it's crazy how some women are just hardwired to like do it on their own, everything. And it's not until they're able to like relax into some support that I think their body then responds positively.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've actually said something very similar, because I feel the same way whenever I want to level up in my life. I'm like, I'm just going to like give this all to my coach, and then I'm going to put my trust in her to just, figure it out for me. And then I just do what I'm told, basically. And that's a huge weight off of my shoulders. So I always want to be that weight off shoulders for my clients.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think, again, being relatable and getting them to see that like, even you have a coach, right? None of us are immortal. We are all human. And just like you need they need a coach for health. If you're hiring someone for business, right? It's just so that you can kind of really flourish in the ways that on your own, and asking for help and support where you need help and support. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've hired coaches for health, for business, for just like leveling up in my life, because there's always more to learn. And sometimes even IHPs, we're going to go through stages where we're going to want another IHP or another health coach to like dial in and look at what we may be overlooking, even subconsciously, because it's so familiar to us.
Yeah.
Our own patterns sometimes can get in our way and we don't even know it. So we need that person that, looks from a bird's eye view, like really like zooms out, like sees the whole picture, rather than we might be dialing in and trying so hard in these few aspects as an individual. And that's why we keep plateauing.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've like sent a lab to Dr. Cabral, and I'm like, I know what you're going to say, but I just need to hear it from you, because I can't tell myself. Yeah, because it's just human nature. And that's why so many people thrive with accountability and connection, and somebody else kind of, especially with health, right? It can be such a an emotional experience, or, if you're dealing with significant imbalances or even hormones, right? There's so much that can kind of cloud our abilities to do it on our own. That coaching is so important.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, the connection aspect, because a lot of people don't feel heard. A lot of women specifically, whether they go the conventional route and they wait for an appointment for an hour in the office, they go in for 5 minutes, they don't feel heard. They're told everything is fine. And then it's like they get a coach and it's like they're actually heard. Someone wants to know what's going on in their life with their health and wants to hold their hand through the process. And that can be so regulating for someone's nervous system. I mean, I'm no therapist, but I've had clients tell me before that I helped them more than years of therapy ever did, because we're looking at the overall picture rather than just dialing in on like one specific topic.
Yes. Yeah. And we've talked other people about how like women will, or even men, just like get super emotional on calls when like you finally validate. And I'm sure you're not giving them therapeutic, like hours of talk therapy, but the reason why you help them more than a therapist is because they finally feel like someone sees them, appreciates them, and is there for them, right? Like it's just simply that someone's on their side in a way that feels, like you said, super regulating to their nervous system. There's a connection, there's, that like, know, and trust, and they feel seen. And that's all any of us ever really truly want, is to be seen for who we are and not needing to be more than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely it.
Yes. Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah. I have, and people will always be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. Like, this is so weird. I don't know why I'm crying. Right. And I always say, like, I know why you're crying. It's okay. Like, you're crying because you've felt really unwell for so long, and you've likely seen lots of very credentialed practitioners, whether they be doctors or whatnot, that have told you you're okay. And you've needed to hear that you're not crazy. And I'm telling you that there's a reason why you feel this way, and that there's some hope, and that's why you're crying, and that's okay. Right. It's just a huge emotional release for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I felt that myself. I'm sure you have. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are all the places that you show up if listeners wanted to connect further? Social media, websites, all the places.
Yeah. Well, I do have a website, www.NicoleThibeault.com. My last name is spelled Thibeault. I also have Instagram, Nicole T Wellness, and a Facebook page, Nicole T Wellness.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here and sharing everything that you did. I so appreciate it. And I'm sure our listeners do too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Nicole.